How you doing? My name is Bryan Randall. I'm the quarterback coach here at William Mary, going on my second year. Originally from Williamsburg, Virginia. Played college ball at Virginia Tech and had some stints in the NFL. Undrafted with the Falcons in '05. I played in the CFL, Arena Football League, and now here I am.
I love it. I love it. So, Coach, from a quarterback room standpoint, maybe talk about a couple of the key characteristics that you're looking for guys that you look for in quarterbacks. When they join when they look to join William and Mary. What are some of the characteristics that you're looking for on that front?
Well, first of all, I look for a guy that is hardworking. I look for a guy who is team first. Because within the quarterback room, there's only one guy that can play. I tell my guys that all the time. Everybody wants to be on the field, but everybody can't be on the field. So it's important that, you're able to support, the other guys in the room if it just so happens that you're not that guy on the field at the time, because you never know when your time's going to come. But if you can't be able to, if you're not able to sit in the room and be be a guy that can help when you're not the starting guy, then I don't want you. This is there's enough. It's hard enough being a quarterback as it is. So I can't have somebody in my room that's gonna divide my room and make it even harder. For me as a coach and for us as a team. So I think that's one of the biggest things. I need a team guy, and I think overall we've been very, very good with finding those type of guys, and they're able to help each other out. But at the same time, they know it's a competition, and they're able to separate that. And I think that's very important when you're building a good quarterback room. The next man up is going to be ready, but we need everybody there to be supporting in that room to make everybody better, not just the starter better.
Absolutely. Derek, you want to quick intro yourself since you just hopped on? Maybe, maybe not. It looks like he's on mute.
You hear
Um,
me?
yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, we're good to go.
There we go.
Hey, Coach. Sorry about that. Yeah,
Going
I'm
on
on my
there.
phone here, so
No,
my
all good.
apologies.
No, all good.
Yeah, my name's Derek Byerly. I'm coaching down in the Port St. Lucie area and down in South Florida. I've been doing it for roughly 10 years now, but as a private quarterback trainer, roughly 5. So
Okay.
it's been fun.
So,
Awesome.
Coach, just kind of piggybacking off the characteristic standpoint, from a evaluation standpoint with these high school quarterbacks, what are kind of the throws or things that you're looking for that would fit your offense there at William and Mary, and maybe kind of talk through that process?
Well, when we're looking at guys, the first thing I'm definitely looking at is footwork. I want to see how guys are on balance, how their feet set up, what type of drops they're taking. Are they taking a drop at all? I think that the foundation of good throwing is basically from the feet, especially when you talk about being on time and moving up from that high school level to that college level. Guys need to know that your footwork is very important because these routes are marrying up with the type of footwork that you take. So when I'm watching the film, guys, you have your quick outs, your regular out routes, your 12-yard stops. I think a lot of times, when these guys throw on the tape or when these guys put on their highlight tape, the first thing you see is just a bunch of go balls, and you see 6 or 7 go balls, and you're like, okay, go ball, go ball, go ball. Back there just throwing it up, which is cool. Like you threw a touchdown, but you may get that one time or two times within the course of a whole game. So I need to see more than just that. So it's almost like, hey, let's fast forward. Let's get to the crossing route or the digs. Let's get to see where his eyes are on his second hitch. Is he staring down the receiver the whole time and throwing, or does he come off the first guy and being able to hit the second guy or hit his check down? So the footwork for me is very important. Very important. That's the first thing that I'm looking at, and then after that, of course, I want to see how the ball comes out his hand. Is there zip on the ball? Is release? Is it a short release? Is it a long release? Is it a sidearm release? And then we get to the measurables of, hey, is this guy 5'8"? Or is this guy 6'3"? Because
Sure.
if you're 5'8", between the 5'8", 5'11" range, I can't have a guy that's throwing sidearm, um, at that height. It's guys are too big on the line. Like it's just
Yeah.
you call it spade a spade. So some of those things can kind of weed out guys too. I mean, even if you have you're an all-state guy or you set school records, it's hard to get past that because you just know once you get to this next level, it's going to be tough with those mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely. Derek, you want to jump in?
Yeah, coach. So I have a quick question in terms of like how do you guys find guys? Like
Mhm.
what's your process on like maybe like smaller areas like mine, for instance? Like how do guys get in front of you, or how do you either attract them, or how do you locate them?
Well, we got of course we got a recruiting database that we look at in arms, and the whole team can see it, and then we have guys who are steadily checking these things throughout the course of the year, for every high school, every state, small, and then for us it's by GPA. So we're looking at schools with higher academic standards, when we can find them, and it doesn't really matter area. The cool thing about it is the technology allows us to be able to find schools everywhere, no matter where they are. And what's been a surprise to me is, we have guys that hit us up from California all the time. So it's never like an area that is untouched or we're not seeing guys from California, Texas, Florida. We're getting emails every day. We got a guy actually, that's coming to school that's coming from California. But when we start to evaluate these guys, we'll get these guys on a list, and we'll just sit in the room and we'll just look at guys. And, if they meet our academic standard, if, of course, we're looking at because of, the Twitters and, looking at their offers and, who's looking at them, we can kind of narrow it down a little bit. But we're able to find you. Like if you're out there, there's not an area that, has gone untouched that we haven't seen at least a recruit or at least looked at a tape, at a guy from that area, whether we think we can get him or not.
Coach, if there's a
Okay.
kid that, wants to come to William and Mary, is it best for them to kind of reach out to you via Twitter? Is it best for them to be emailing you or the recruiting coordinator that's in their area? Or is it like, hey man, come to camp. I want to see you throw. You know what I mean? Like maybe go through that on your front.
Okay, so we are definitely active on our Twitter. Coach London has made us made us very aware that Twitter is one of our big ways that we communicate. Especially us being a school like William Mary who's trying to get some of these top guys
Sure.
out there. So we make it a point to be able to respond to guys, and I say that's probably the biggest way that guys communicate is through Twitter. I mean, there's guys steadily requesting, sending messages, sending huddle, making sure you have your huddle on your Twitter page. But reaching out that way is definitely a good way. Email honestly has kind of played the back burner. Like you don't get as many emails because Twitter is the traffic is so heavy that, more likely or not, like the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just go on Twitter and then we'll have a long list of guys, hey coach this, hey coach that. And then from there, if the film is not showing enough, then we'll always try to get a guy down. If he's really interested, get him to come to camp so we can see him firsthand, see him compete, with other guys. And that gives us a great opportunity to, see him in person.
Yeah. Coach, from the camp standpoint, you have your guys that you're recruiting, they come. How do the guys that end up making, kind of like they differentiate themselves? What are the characteristics? What do they do or show at camp that you're like, hey man, that's a guy that I need on my team. That's a quarterback that I need in my room.
I think the biggest thing is, they show up and they're ready to compete. When you sometimes when guys go to camp and they're well known or they have some prestige behind their name, they kind of shy away from the competition. Like, I'll come in, I'll throw, but I won't run. Or I won't do drills, or I'm not gonna throw one-on-ones, but I'll throw a couple indie type things. So for me, and I believe this is our whole coaching staff, is that we want guys that are willing to do whatever. If that's run a 40, if that's get out there and do the shuttle, if that is, get out there and punt if we ask you to. Like whatever you're asked to do, I don't want anybody to ever feel like you're above doing anything. Like we need guys that are gonna be all in, not guys that think that they already have it made. So being coming to a camp and just be willing to put yourself out there, and whether you think you're going to run a good 40 or you're going to have a good broad jump or whatever it may be, the fact that you're out there and you're trying to compete is the first thing for me, because if you come out there and you're not ready to compete, it's not a good sign for me, because that's telling me like, hey, you're going to turn it on sometimes and then sometimes you're not.
Derek, what you got?
Yeah, so coach, like when you're in regards to in season, or I guess summer camp, Because you guys
Mm.
just finished up spring. Like, do you treat all the QBs the same? Like, do you have a list or a plan on how you coach each kid, or is it kind of separated towards each individual, or is it all individualized?
Well, at this point, it's more so of a all the same type thing. And, I really feel like that is a year by year type of evaluation. The situation we're here right now, we got, some new guys come in. Our guy that we had last year left. So we don't have anybody who has experience for us here who has played a game for us on the roster right now. So in that type of
Hmm.
situation, it's more so a, hey, we're bringing everybody along because we need everybody to get the same information to be able to have the best opportunity to succeed with what we got. And when you're only a
Right.
year or two into an offense, there's so many things that you want to get in. But at the
Yeah,
same
yeah, yeah.
time, when guys are young, you have to still, coach them and build fundamental, build foundational things in order for them to come along and eventually be able to take that next step over the next couple years of advancing in the offense. And then you may get some, specialized type things once you get a little more information on the guys.
Right. Yeah, the reason
Coach,
why I ask is because when you recruit, are you recruiting like a specific style, or are you recruiting the best athlete and then I'm going to coach them from there type of mindset?
Well, I think it can vary a little bit. There's a specific type of um, prototype, so to speak, when you talk about the offense that we're in. And when I say that, like we're looking for a guy that is is mobile, but you don't have to be a
Hmm.
4-3-4-4 guy. When I say that, you
Right,
just
right.
just got to be
be
able to move.
able to get a fucking move, pick up
Yeah,
pick
You'll
up
be able to
five
move.
yards,
Yeah.
get the first down, that type of thing.
yep.
So that's a little bit of the dynamic that we're looking for, a guy who can distribute the ball. Is looking to definitely to pass first before getting out of there and running. But a guy that basically can distribute, make good decisions. We were this year, like we barely had, any interceptions. I think we maybe had three as a QB unit. So taking care of the ball and
Ball
get out
security.
there and run.
Yeah.
Yeah, ball security. One of the dynamics we did have this past year, though, I mean, our quarterback, he definitely could run. I mean, he could run faster than your normal quarterback. But that dynamic is not necessary in order for our offense to succeed.
Coach, when you guys
Understood.
are in August camp and you have your quarterbacks on the roster, what are the things that the eventual starter is going to have to do to kind of separate himself to earn that position to be the quarterback of William and Mary?
So the biggest thing is being able to manage the offense. It's not a situation where I need him to go out and throw for 400 yards, but I need him to be able to, on 3rd and 5, make the right decision. 3rd and long, make the right decision to instead of trying to force it down the middle on a seam ball or throw a 13-yard pass. Hey, take the check down at 4 or 5 yards. Let that guy pick up the first down. Getting us in the best situation possible as far as, not trying to do too much. I think we have an offense where we depend on accuracy a lot, making the right decision in RPO situations, making the right reads in those type of situations, and, being accurate, with your ball as far as like hitting the flats coming out of RPOs and whether those checks or we maybe have checks or seeing blitzes from the corner. So it's the standard type of things that you kind of look over because they're not flashy. But in all reality, when you take care of the ball, you give yourself a chance to win. So our
Absolutely.
thing at the quarterback position is, hey, do your job and let everybody else do their job. And that's how we'll look at whoever's doing that best and who's ever to manage and get the guys going on a consistent basis is definitely the front runner to be the
For
starter.
sure. Coach, do you give them like a pre-snap checklist? Maybe walk us through kind of how you teach your guys from a mental standpoint of how they can prepare for each and every play
Mhm.
on that front.
So, we always tell the guys, or I tell the guys, hey, you got to have a plan before the snap starts. So let's say we got a pass play where we have a quick out, a go route on the backside. You got drive concept,
Yep.
basic shallow. We're going to say, hey, on this, we got an alert, which is your go. Hey, if you get man, you get press coverage, one high safety, you like your matchup, take that. Like take your go. Yep. Let's say we get one high safety and he's off, be alerting for that out route, over there, that quick out. Just take the easy money. If not, if you see safety rotation and you get you on that boundary safety and that safety split, then hey, you're basically gonna get in your drop. You're gonna come three in a hitch down to the shallow, second hitch to the basic, reset to your back. So the plan, what I'm trying to get the guys is basically knowing, hey, what type of passing concept do we have here? Is this a quick game, one high, two high, where you're gonna have to choose a side? Is it a pure progression where, hey, no matter what, we're gonna be a three and a hitch to the boom, second hitch, boom, reset to run? Or maybe we have a boundary safety spoke read. So where he comes up to the line and we say, hey, we're 3-by-1, and he's looking at the boundary safety to say, hey, if he does this, I might have open access, maybe for out ball, or I may have open access to see if he stays steady. I might have a post route, backside if they're giving us some type of cover four
Yeah.
uh, type of look. So the pre-snap is huge. It's major. I'm a big component of it because if you don't have a plan, you're in a position not to have success. So,
Yeah.
I tell my guys first and foremost before everything, hey, have a plan. What is your plan? If they do this, what are you doing? If they do this, what are you doing? Because then you can play faster. And if you have
Absolutely.
a plan for every play, and that's why that the reps, the study is so important because when you have a plan for every play, then you're able to get back down to that check down. You're able to get to it faster, and your feet are calmer. Because any when you start seeing those happy feet, there's a lot of times because guys are unsure.
It's all.
They
Hmm.
panic.
Hmm.
Uncomfortable.
Yep, uncomfortable. Head get to moving everywhere, and feet are chopping
Yeah.
at the same time. And boom, you miss it. Next thing you know, it's a sack, or you're trying to come back to somewhere where you should have been on first. Now you're trying to come back to it. So, um, having a plan is so important to being successful at our position.
So, Coach, from a mental standpoint, how do you test the guys that you're interested in from a high school perspective? When they come on campus, do you get them on the board, or are you kind of walking through some of the game tape that you guys have at William and Mary? Obviously, it's a super important aspect of your guys' offense. So, how do you kind of evaluate that for prospective athletes?
So when you're talking about like the mental preparation of a high school guy, I think these days guys are a lot further along than quarterbacks were back when I was playing. They're a lot more pass heavy,
Sure.
so therefore they see a lot more defense. They've thrown a lot more passes, than back in the day, so to speak. So the basic things such as, hey, do you know what the do you know what the defender responsibilities are in cover two? Do you know what the defender responsibilities are in cover three? Like I believe if you can get the basis of a foundation of what defenses do, then you can teach them why this route will work, why this route won't work, why your eyes should go here, why your eyes shouldn't go there. Just having a basic understanding of what defenses are trying to do to you and what they can do at a certain look.
Yeah.
So it's nothing, you don't want to put too much on a guy. But if a guy has all the intangibles and what you're looking for, and then they have base knowledge um, of what a defense responsibilities are and what a defense is trying to do from one high, two high looks, then I think that's enough.
Derek, what you got?
No, I was just going to piggyback off that. It sounds like, teaching some of these kids are better with understanding like spatial recognition, but they're not so great at maybe the lingo yet, or maybe they just haven't been taught like the
Right.
linguistics because it
Yes.
seems, every coach has a different language. Maybe
Yep.
not all, but, I'm sure it varies from school to school on,
Mhm.
what you coach from a language perspective, maybe to another FCF school.
Yep.
Probably maybe the lingo is completely different. So, have you dealt with that from a linguistics perspective? Maybe you say one thing, but another coach has taught this individual something completely different.
Yeah. No, I think that is I think that's kind of like a universal, type thing as you move from place to place. And I can even say that even for myself. I may have learned things one way, and then
Uh-huh.
you have other position coaches who have coached other places, and they speak on different. So one of the things that we do here is we sit down and we say, hey, this is what we're calling this.
Yeah.
This is what we're calling this defense. Hey, if they come and do this blitz, this is what we're calling this blitz because you go somewhere, it's 10 ways that people will call a free safety blitz or a boundary safety blitz. So as long as you're on the same page, and that's one of the things what we're doing with our quarterbacks right now, we're calling the quarterback school where we are getting on the same page so that we're a tempo offense. So through the course of a game, if you come to the sideline and I'm saying, hey, they're bringing boundary safety blitz and we're calling it this, then once I say that in your mind, you should automatically know like, okay, I understand the type of look that we're getting the blitz and the coverage that we're getting behind it. So that's very
Right.
important. Yeah, I would never knock a kid for not being able to understand all the lingo because it's a lot of different, we know there's a lot of different language when it comes to offenses and defensive schemes. So no, it just basic understanding and I think being fair, you have to meet guys where they're at in some of those things because we've all been there.
Right. Right. No, I appreciate it because, I know I utilize like field safety, boundary corner, boundary safety, field corner, alley, overhang. Like
Yes. Yeah.
not everybody calls it alley or overhang or like apex. Like there's three different terms for that one defender. And
Facts.
depending on whether or not you teach it that way, maybe they go in and they're like, well, I don't know what that means, coach. But they do, they
Absolutely.
just don't know the same verb.
No, yes. So
No,
for
I
me,
appreciate it. Thanks.
it was free safety. Like so what we call the boundary safety here, we called the free safety when I was in college.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, free safety, strong safety.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
now it's boundary safety,
Yeah.
free
Field
safety.
safety. Yep.
Yeah, or field
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And
that's
high schools use right and left. Well, some. They're like right corner, left corner. I'm like, I call it the boundary corner
Well,
or
the
the field
boundary,
corner.
yeah, it's bound right. You're right, right corner, left
Yeah.
corner. No, that stuff is I think that I think that's cool though. Like I think it's cool when you have a bunch of different lingo and you can kind of laugh about it because you'll say kind of revert back sometimes and say this. You be like, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. Everybody's in the room confused, and I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coach, you guys signed a
That's
couple
awesome.
different
I appreciate it.
couple different quarterbacks in your recent recruiting class. What was kind of the differentiator between those guys and some of the other guys that you had looked at? Why did you sign the one transfer and the one freshman that you guys brought in?
Mhm. So the kid from Towson, Winston Watkins. So we looked at his film, and first of all, you're not seeing too many 6'6",
Big
guys.
dude.
Yeah,
Yep.
big guy, quarterback, lefty, and he had some film of him moving around, had some good runs and things like that, and then we got hold of some practice film, and we were able to see him throw a little bit from some of the highlights he had put out, and um, he turned out to be, I mean, a awesome guy, awesome family. And, anytime you're bringing in, a guy to transfer, you want to make sure that, like we talk about that quarterback room, like you want to make sure like the character is what you want, like 'cause everything can jump out on tape. So, he was awesome. We brought him here on his visit. He was awesome. His family was awesome, very well spoken. I like his temperament. And we just thought he had a lot of tools that we need. We talk about the guy who can, get out of things or make things happen with their legs, but also, can distribute the ball. And that was a big factor, and being 6'6", like,
Can't teach size.
yeah, you can't teach that, so it's some of his physical tools are um stood out to us, and he definitely was one of the top people on our board to get before we got him. And then as far as the freshmen go, anytime you're bringing in freshmen, you're trying to anticipate what they're going to be able to do for you, and what capacity, whether that's going to be something immediately or something in the future. Can they do multiple things? So with the guys that we signed, are definitely guys that we felt like, hey, this guy's going to be suitable for growth. He's going to be suitable to maybe not next year, but the years after is going to be a guy that fits our mold and can really grow into somebody that could really help us in the future.
I love it. I love it. Derek, what you got?
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead if you got one.
Coach, probably just a couple, question, not too many more. I don't want to take too much more of your time,
You're
but
good.
is
Mhm.
there from the guys that you've recruited and the quarterbacks that you've seen kind of be coached by you in the past, maybe there might have been a couple of guys that didn't work out. Were there key characteristics that you kind of realized, like, hey man, like if he's got this, like he's probably not a fit for me? And how can guys kind of showcase themselves, their characteristics to you so you can better evaluate them?
Well, Cole, I'm not going to say that there have been guys that or I haven't ran into yet a guy who has kind of weeded himself out to say, "Hey, I definitely you don't want this." And
Sure.
I know eventually you're going to run into that as you bring in recruits, and that's just the way that's part of the business.
Yeah,
But I really feel like the one way that could happen if it does happen in the future is a guy whose attitude um does not fit my standard. Like I'm very very big on high character guys, leadership qualities, and I mean just for an example, like if you're playing and guys aren't up to par, guys are maybe dropping balls or something like that happens, and you're always looking to put the blame on somebody, or you're always yelling at your teammates, you're never holding yourself accountable for what goes on, or you always got to answer, instead of listening. You're always ready to fire back. We're not going to get along well
sure.
if that's the case. You can never feel like you're bigger than the team. I don't care your first team, all district, state, whatever it may be, all American. It doesn't matter. Like I want guys that are going to come in and feel like, hey, I can get better. I can always get better, and I'm willing to be coached. I'm willing to take constructive criticism, and I'm willing to encourage my teammates to be the best that they can. Like if you can't do that, then don't even bother, looking at William and Mary while I'm here.
Coach, and on the flip side of that, is
I
there a
like it.
kid that maybe across your coaching lifetime has really kind of stood out to you where you're like, man, I wasn't expecting that. It was a camp visit, maybe it was a junior day, and he did something that was like that really stood out to you, made you remember him in a positive light.
I haven't not necessarily that experience, but what I can say is, so our quarterback room last year the dynamic was very good. I told them this last year. I said, you know, we had five guys in the quarterback room, um, and our starter had just a little bit of experience from the year before. However, like throughout the whole year, I mean, they were on it because they were learning a new offense, new offensive coordinator. I was just coming in as the quarterback coach. And I mean, throughout the whole process, it was always a how can we get better mentality as a group. They would meet together, they would study film together, they would get out and throw together. We had, before we got here, I remember walking into a meeting my first day, and it was, man, it was a little bit late, and guys were putting in extra time, all together, all of them were there, trying to get better, learning the lingo, learning signals. And it was just the preparation that I saw them for them as a group that I said, hey, this is what I want as a quarterback room. And I told them that. And it's crazy because I said, guys, it's not going to be too many times where you go somewhere and you're going to find a quarterback room where there's not some type of animosity in that room. Even if it's small, like some type of animosity that shows up, that pops up where you got to check a guy like, look, we can't have this from my starter and my backup. Like you can't be showing everybody like, hey, y'all don't like each other because of playing purposes, or whatever it may be. And ironically, all three of my guys in that room are gone. So, they'll be going to different places. And I hope they find a room that is, just like the one we had last year. But it was definitely it was definitely a good feeling as a coach, to be able to see guys that were really linked together. Like we go on away trips, like they're all meeting, like we're all together. Like it was a really, really good room. And I know just from being around sports for a long time that you don't really find that dynamic a
It's
lot.
hard.
You're
It's
gonna
hard when
usually
one guy
find at least some.
plays.
Yeah, you're gonna find some attitude, some some jealousy. And in which of course there may be. We're all human.
Sure.
But they just found a way to mesh really well with each other.
That's awesome. That's awesome,
Yeah.
I,
Coach. Derek, I'll let you get your last shot in
yeah.
here.
So, well, you're speaking about, three of them left. So, like, how do you deal with that? Deal with the transfer portal and dealing with the loss. Like, is it next man mentality
That's
or next?
that's the only way. Yeah, next man up. I mean, that's really the only way you can go about it. And that's why, we talked about earlier where you asked um you asked about how we were, would train the quarterbacks as far as their individual plans or group plans. I think now you have to train everybody the same right now as if, hey, you're going to be the starter. You're one play away from being a starter. You could be the starter because you just don't know. Of course, through the course of a season, you could have injuries and things like that. So I think at during this time, like it's important to try to get everybody up, um, up to speed or as far as possible together because
Right,
then they
right,
can
right.
learn from each other. They can study together. They can go out and train together. If they go out and throw routes on air, like everybody's on the same page. There's not one guy or, your starter's the only one that's really kind of in tune with what's going on. Everybody else kind of knows. So they can't really check him to let him know, hey, no, we're going to be doing this on this route. Or, they're able to bring each other out and self-correct each other, when they see something is not right. So it's all growing
No, I
together.
love it. There's a plan. There's always a plan. Just staying flexible in the approach. No, I
That's
like it.
absolutely. You have to be. Yes.
I love it. Well, Coach, I appreciate your time.